What's going on, guys? Bengal again here, coming back at you with another video, and today we're back doing another mock draft. Sorry for the delay on this one. Things had to be redone. I was away for a few days and a lot happened. The trade deadline was 1,000 times more active than it usually is, and that's why this post-trade deadline mock draft had to be switched up quite a bit. So, of course, only 31 first-round picks in this draft. The Dolphins had a first-round pick voided. This is based on current standings. Things obviously will change. But we'll start out with the number 1 overall pick. I'm still going to keep it Detroit, Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young is probably the 1A to CJ Stroud's 1B quarterback in this class. Young is just a real big playmaker. There are going to be concerns about his size, but I think NFL teams are going to fall in love with the processing and the ability to make plays out of structure like you need to in the NFL. So Bryce Young is my number 1 overall pick, and I am going to have the Texans going CJ Stroud at number 2. I don't know. It's tough. Will Anderson, I could easily see at this spot if they want to give Davis Mills another year or two, but you're picking a number 2 overall. You do have another top pick in this draft, so address the most important position right now. Go CJ Stroud. But yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if they just kept throwing Davis Mills out there. But picking at number 2, I think we're going quarterback. At number 3, Carolina Panthers. They're in a weird transitional period. I'm not sure how good they're even going to be next year. I'm going Will Anderson Jr. This easily could have been Will Levis as well. I've decided to switch things up and go Will Anderson Jr., get a really good edge rush duo with Brian Burns, who they refused to trade, which was good for them. They should not have traded him. A lot of people keep saying, oh, they drafted Matt Corral in the 3rd round, the previous head coach, by the way. I don't think that changes anything as to why they would or would not draft a quarterback, but we're going with a different position today. And then at number 4, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers going Olu Fashanu out of Penn State. He's someone that I've been putting up near the top of my mock drafts recently, and it seems like everyone else is catching on. I think he's going to end up being a first-round pick and maybe the first tackle off the board. He's only 19 years old, and he's been very, very good in his limited start so far at Penn State. He's been spectacular, and it's not even just a high-ceiling player because he's so young. He's also very good right now, especially in pass pro. Today's sponsor is Rocket Money. You may have heard of them. They used to be called Truebill, and it's an all-in-one finance platform that helps you save more and spend less. Rocket Money is an awesome personal finance manager that allows you to manage subscriptions, lower your bills, monitor your credit score, and build your savings all in one convenient place. And in the short time that I've used Rocket Money, I can say they've been incredibly useful. With Rocket Money, I've been able to cancel unwanted subscriptions, some of which I forgot I was even paying for. A little bit embarrassing to admit. And yeah, they might be $1.99 a month, $4.99 a month. But those things can add up quickly if you're not careful, and Rocket Money can help you take care of those and eliminate those completely if you so choose. Really cool feature to lower your bills as well with Rocket Money. You upload a photo, you tap a button, and Rocket Money will, get this, negotiate your bills for you. Internet service, cable, phone, and they'll negotiate them down if they can. And in using some of these things, you can also continue to grow your net worth. Rocket Money will show you a clear picture of your total assets. So that's cash, that's debts factored in, investments, maybe you're in crypto, if you got retirement accounts set up, if you have collectibles, all of it can factor in one easy to manage, convenient place. So it's what a lot of us are looking to do. Spend less, save more. So join the 3.4 million members, including myself, using Rocket Money. So go down in the description, go to rocketmoney.com/Bengal, click the link in the description, get started for free, and then you have the option to unlock more features with premium if you so choose. That's rocketmoney.com/Bengal to get started for free, and thank you to Rocket Money for sponsoring this video. Jacksonville Jaguars traded for Calvin Ridley, but they really didn't give up too much to get him. A lot of conditional action going on. It could be as high as a 2nd-round pick. So nothing in the 1st round for them has changed other than they might not need to draft a receiver now that they have Calvin Ridley. So we're going Jalen Carter, interior defensive lineman out of Georgia. He struggled with some injuries this year, but when he's been on the field, most notably last week, was exceptional, is an exceptional player. Big pass rush upside. He's going to end up being one of the first guys off the board. Jalen Carter is so talented. As we move to the Raiders, going Myles Murphy. They need edge rush pretty badly, and Myles Murphy, I think, can be everything you expected Cleveland Ferrell to be as a Clemson edge rusher. They're different players, but Myles Murphy is a really, really good prospect, and The Raiders could use pass rush help. Max Crosby is great. Chandler Jones has been a major disappointment. Number 7, we're going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and quarterback Will Levis out of Kentucky. So here's the problem with Will Levis, right? Is we look at production and it's underwhelming and disappointing. However, there are a number of variables that can justify this draft position, and it's why myself and I'm sure many others will continue to mock Will Levis in the first round of mock drafts. He has a big arm. He has the prototypical size and mobility that teams are looking for. He's got the toughness. He reads the field pretty well, and he really doesn't have a lot of help around him. Offensive line's not great. Receivers, non-existent so far. So it's tough to really get a good evaluation. Like, you have CJ Stroud playing in the absolute perfect scenario. Best offensive line, arguably, in college football. So much time to throw. Best receiving core. He's putting up great numbers. Will Levis doesn't really have any of that and is struggling, but has some traits that you really look for. So it's really difficult to say with a player like Will Levis, but the talent is there, and I think that will end up having him drafted pretty high. But I can understand lack of production being a concern for a few of you. And number 8, I'm going Philadelphia Eagles and Brian Brzee, defensive tackle out of Clemson. He's your prototypical 3 tech. Think he can, slide outside to the 5 as well. He's just a really, really good interior defensive lineman with pass rush upside. He is a defensive tackle that will go high because he's not a nose tackle. The interior defensive linemen that are 300 pounds with burst and can rush the quarterback, those guys are going to go high. And Brian Brzee, when healthy and playing, is very, very good, and I think will end up being a top 10 or top 15 pick at the latest. And now, since the Houston Texans passed on Will Anderson Jr., they're going to keep Tyree Wilson in state, going from Lubbock all the way east to Houston, Texas. They need edge help pretty badly. Jonathan Grenard is a player I like, but this is a team with a lot of glaring holes. They're getting torched through the air and on the ground. Their defense is just putrid. Their offense really isn't scoring too many points. You got to do something, right? And we're just going to take maybe the best player available at the most important position, and that's the super athletic, big-bodied, very long arms, Tyree Wilson. Has been productive so far in the Big 12 too, so I think he's going to be a player that goes high. He's like if Will Levis was a defensive end, right? I know that's a very interesting comp, but someone that is fairly productive, not overly anything crazy like Will Anderson level of pressures, but has the length, has the traits, has the upside. That's what teams draft on. Trayvon Walker was the number 1 overall pick last year. I think this is a similar thing, but Wilson has been more productive, so keep that in mind. And then with the Seahawks going Trenton Simpson, outside linebacker out of Clemson. Trenton Simpson is the linebacker that we pretty much see every year now in some form or another. The guy that does a bunch of different things. Maybe he plays that overhang role. He sometimes will blitz. He sometimes will be back in coverage. Sometimes will slide more inside, play off ball, play on the ball, play all over the place. That's Trenton Simpson. And for the Seahawks, they're getting gashed in the run game, and just maybe bring in another versatile linebacker that can help out your defense in a number of different roles. It's a little bit too early for a nose tackle, which would help, of course, with your run game, stopping other teams' run game, I should say. But Simpson, just a really good player. I think he could probably go somewhere as early as about 10 to maybe the middle or back end of the first round, but he's really, really good. And then I have the Cardinals going Christian Gonzalez, corner out of Oregon. Another team that they need to be better in pass defense, and their corners just are not great. Christian Gonzalez is another one of these guys with great traits that's going to push him up draft boards, get him drafted higher, and I think that's exactly what happens here with the Cardinals, who need better corners. And then for the Chicago Bears, I'm going Quentin Johnston, receiver at a TCU. I think there's a decent chance he will be the first receiver off the board. Got off to a bit of a slow start this year, and then absolutely exploded onto the scene. Was someone that was already pretty hyped up coming into the year. He's got the size, he's got the movement ability, deep route running is great for someone of his size, but can also win in the short and intermediate areas of the field. Big jump ball receiver as well, but he moves really well. I think he's going to end up being drafted fairly high, maybe even higher than 12th. And then that gives Green Bay the opportunity to finally address receiver in the first round. I'm going Jordan Addison, receiver out of USC. Of course, the Pitt transfer almost chose Texas, but didn't. Great. I'm a Texas Longhorns fan, as you guys know. But no ill will towards Jordan Addison. He is a beast. He is one of the most explosive route runners, if you want to call it that, in this draft. Just twitchy, really good separator, and I think will end up being a successful player as a result. Kind of think maybe like in the same vein of a Stephon Diggs or Calvin Ridley type player. I think that's what you might see with Jordan Addison. Really, really good separator, and can win down the field as well. Number 14, another NFC North team. It's the Detroit Lions. Got to address the defense at some point. I also want the offense to be better. The Lions just are not as good as they need to be. You have some strengths on the team, surely. Offensive line looks pretty good. Running back is kind of hit or miss. Quarterback is obviously a big position of need, but we're going Bryce Young at number 1 overall. So what else do we do? Could bring another receiver into the mix. Just traded TJ Hawkinson at the trade deadline. Maybe a tight end is in play. But we're going defense. Their defense is just getting absolutely torn apart. They need better pass rush. They need better players in the secondary. They just fired their DBs coach, even though they turned Jeff Okudah around. Amani Oruwariye really has not played as well this year as he did last year. So I do think corner is in play. And we're going Joey Porter Jr. out of Penn State, of course, son of Joey Porter. Steelers, Cardinals, Dolphins, but mainly Steelers, outside linebacker, edge rusher. He was a beast. Really loved Joey Porter growing up, and it's crazy to see his son as a top prospect in the NFL, and at corner, no less. At number 15, with the Indianapolis Colts, going Hendon Hooker, quarterback out of Tennessee. He's probably going to win the Heisman this year if he keeps it up. He's been great. He's also playing in a very, very quarterback-friendly Josh Heupel offense at Tennessee. Some great weapons at wide receiver, Cedric Tillman, Jalen Hyatt. It's a really, really fun offense, so we do have to take some of what Hendon Hooker is doing with a grain of salt, because we didn't really see this Hendon Hooker, as good before he transferred to Tennessee. Saw some flashes, no doubt, but he's playing on another level this year at Tennessee, and I think a lot of it has to do with the offense, but he is an older quarterback prospect. It's going to be tough to see how high he ends up going in the draft. I think middle of the first round is probably the ceiling, and for a team like the Colts, who are pretty good, maybe a quarterback away, I think they might take a chance on Hendon Hooker if he's still available, depending on what happens. And then at 16, Bengals, I'm going Paris Johnson Jr. out of Ohio State. Jonah Williams is not good. I think it's a pretty clear disappointment with how La'el Collins has impacted the Bengals so far. So I think offensive tackle is certainly in play. The offense just needs to be better. You have too many playmakers to not be scoring like the Bengals do. I mean, their defense has played well at times this year. The Browns just crushed them. I don't know. The Bengals could go a number of different ways here. I could see corner. I could see tight end maybe. But we're going offensive tackle. It's just too important. And it's a pretty good offensive tackle class. Patriots at 17 going Peter Skoronski, offensive tackle out of Northwestern. He's got short arms, could push him inside the guard, but said that about Rashawn Slater. Rashawn Slater's been incredible. However, Skoronski, another Northwestern tackle, has shorter arms than even Rashawn Slater. However, the tape is good, so can he stay on the outside? Definitely possible. Now, it's also possible the Patriots would be looking for more of a prototypical offensive tackle. I could see this being maybe DeJuan Jones or Broderick Jones or somebody like that. But Skoronski's also just good. Isaiah Wynn got benched for Marcus Cannon. Marcus Cannon's like 34 years old. Trent Brown could maybe slide back over to right tackle. There's a lot going on with this Patriots offensive line, but if you're going to make the job easier for Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi, but Mac Jones, you got to get him some more help up front. You got to address the most important position on the offensive line. The interior looks pretty good. Cole Strange has played great, but tackle can be upgraded and should be upgraded as we move to the Commanders. Going Cam Smith at 18 here. Really good corner, South Carolina guy, very aggressive. There are a lot of handsy corners in this class. Joey Porter Jr. is another great example. They're aggressive, they're physical, and that can potentially lead to flags, which is a bit of a concern. But also, we've seen Sauce Gardner play physically this year in the NFL, and He hasn't really been penalized too much, especially for a rookie. So Cam Smith, teams are going to like him. J.C. Horn was a top pick. I think Cam Smith could end up going very high as well. I think he's a first-round guy. Really, really good corner for the Gamecocks. And the Commanders, who just traded a really good corner in William Jackson, definitely need to address that position, and already needed to before even trading William Jackson. Now it's a clear, glaring need. Falcons going Isaiah Foskey, edge out of Notre Dame. He's played fairly well this season. He's been shut out against better opposition, which is a little bit concerning, but is a good player, has been productive. The Falcons could use some edge rush help pretty badly. They've got a number of different needs, though. You could see them going with, something on the interior. Is it a little bit too early to take, a nose tackle like Siaki Ika? Maybe you'd consider Jaquelin Roy. Maybe you'd consider something, further down the board, but probably not here at 19. We're going with an edge rusher. And then at 20, Denver Broncos going Broderick Jones, tackle out of Georgia. Really young, has played well this year, played well in limited opportunities last year. The Broncos could use help at offensive tackle. Right tackle's a big need. Garrett Bowles, even though he wasn't drafted that long ago, is already getting older as well. Not saying that you need to upgrade on Garrett Bowles, but getting another tackle in the mix is definitely important that the Broncos need to do. They cannot score this year. Their points per game, I believe, is the second lowest in the NFL right now, just above the Steelers as I record this. You need to score more, and you know what can help you do that? Offensive line. I know there are a number of problems with the Broncos. Just getting a tackle is not going to change a ton, but it's going to help. And there are a few new players making their Bengal mock draft debuts. This is one of them, and this is actually kind of a page of them, as you might notice. Drew Sanders, linebacker out of Arkansas, former 5-star Alabama commit, played at Alabama, wasn't great, ended up transferring. It was between maybe Texas and Arkansas, chose Arkansas. Seems the trend is not transferring to Texas. Horns, whatever. Anyway, Drew Sanders is a really unique player, and I could see him going high as a result. He's really big, and he's done a number of different things for Arkansas this year, whether it's rushing off the edge or playing a traditional Mike linebacker role, and this is someone that's 6'5". Very, very interesting, and I think his versatility will be coveted by teams. The Chargers are also getting torched on the ground this year. Getting a big linebacker, I think, could be helpful with that. Not sure Drew Sanders necessarily solves that problem. The interior of the defensive line just needs to play better, but they've invested in there, so I don't really know if they would go interior defensive line with a first-round pick in this draft. So we're going with the next level of the defense, linebacker, and Drew Sanders. Siaki Ika, I think, was on the first mock draft I did, the way too early mock draft, but this is his first appearance since then, I believe. And for the Seahawks, we talked about it earlier, getting destroyed in the ground game. Take a defensive tackle, a nose tackle that will eat up space, eat up blocks, and he actually moves pretty well as well. So I could see him being a first-round pick. We've seen nose tackles go high before. Look at Vita Vea. Vita Vea was a special nose tackle prospect, but Siaki Ika is pretty good as well, and I could see him being a first-round pick out of Baylor. Jets, another debut. It's DeJuan Jones, offensive tackle out of Ohio State. Massive human being. I think he's like 6'8", 380, something close to that at least, or 360. He's huge, is all you need to know. He is a massive human being, and he's played really well for Ohio State this year. And for the Jets that have questions at offensive tackle, I think DeJuan Jones can help you answer some of those, and I think that's not a bad call for the Jets. Their defense has been exceptional this year. And then another debut player, you guys have been asking for him. I was hesitant because I just know how NFL teams are, and they will hesitate to take a player who's a little bit smaller. And Clark Phillips, who's 5'9" or 5'10", out of Utah, is a great player. No question about it. No question. He's so good. I know, the Utah fans have been asking to see Clark Phillips in these. Really good, not denying that. But we know how NFL teams are, and they're going to take the guy who has more ideal size and traits over someone that's just a good player sometimes who's undersized. So that might push him down the board, but also, the Ravens could use another corner in the mix, especially someone that could play in the slot, maybe talk about those size limitations. I think that Clark Phillips is just a really good fit for the Ravens. That's why I have him going to them at number 24, but they could go a number of different positions as well. Getting some help up front Would not be a surprise. They're aging. They need better players. Adafe Owe, potential for the future. And, of course, with his former teammate as well in high school, in David Ajabo, could definitely come on strong as a pass rush duo. So we'll see what happens next year with that. Or I think actually, did Ajabo get activated? I think he may have. So we'll see if anything comes of it down the stretch. I think the Ravens will be a playoff team, so we'll see. We'll see how good David Ajabo plays down the stretch. 25, Kansas City, going with Zach Harrison, edge out of Ohio State. This is back to betting on traits. He is a freak athlete with great size, has been more productive this year, even though he's not exactly filling up the stat sheet in terms of sacks, but his pass rush win rate is higher. He's pressuring the quarterback at a way better rate than he did. I think he's starting to figure it out a little bit, turning athleticism into actual football results, and I think that could end up making him a first-round pick. Now, it's a little bit scary to bet on traits, I understand that, because you want the guy that is the big putting up a bunch of sack numbers, but historically, that just doesn't matter a lot of the time. Sacks are a misleading number. Sacks in college do not necessarily equate to production at the pro level at all. So get over that, because there can be a really good player like Trayvon Walker who does nothing production-wise in terms of sacks at the college level. That can be a very good NFL player right away, and Trayvon Walker certainly has been. Dallas Cowboys going Henry To'oTo'o out of Alabama. Of course, the Tennessee transfer, he was why Tennessee was bad. He transfers out, Tennessee's unbelievable. That's what it was. No. But Henry To'oTo'o, vocal leader of that Alabama defense, they say. Mike linebacker, really, really good. Cowboys could use some help at linebacker for sure. Micah Parsons is obviously great. He's not what Henry To'oTo'o is. You're looking at more of a Leighton Vander Esch replacement or another backer in the mix. Vander Esch is on a one-year deal, signed a one-year contract, and who knows if he's going to be back next year. So this is his potential replacement. And then I have the Giants going Jackson Smith-Njigba, receiver out of Ohio State. So with Jackson Smith-Njigba, it is a big name, and every time I put him further down in these mock drafts, I get comments saying, oh, there's no shot he's going to fall here. And of course, because I'm a Giants fan, I'm going to get, oh, you're just mocking the best receiver in the draft all the way down the board to your favorite team. One, it's a make-believe thing, the mock draft, so wouldn't care about doing that to make my team better in make-believe land. But there are legitimate concerns with Jackson Smith-Njigba in terms of being the highest drafted receiver in this class. He is undersized. He is not the best athlete in the world, and he's been injured a lot of this year. So there are some, I wouldn't say red flags, but there are some things that are going to hold him back and make him not drafted as high as you might think. The size and athletic profile is below average. It just is. That's undebatable, and that's going to lead him to not being drafted as high as you might think. And then, even though he was incredibly productive a year ago, it's been down this year because he's been injured. Emeka Egbuka and Marvin Harrison Jr. have really been playing a lot at Ohio State and playing at a high level. They are a receiver factory. Jackson Smith-Njigba is a really good player, but I don't think he's going to end up being a top 10 pick. At least, I don't think so. Things could happen. Things could change. All it takes is that one team. But I do think he's probably middle to back end of the first round type receiver. I know that's going to be unpopular, but I just think historically, from what we've seen, it makes sense that a player like him would go a little bit further down the board than you'd expect. And then another mock draft debut. Wanted to show him some love. Not sure he ends up sneaking into the first round, but Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee has been exceptional this year. He's had some big games, but it's more than that. He's had a lot of big games. He is an explosive, deep threat, win down the field, run after catch at times. Jalen Hyatt is fun. And keeping the Tennessee receiver in Tennessee, love that for the storyline. He's really good, and the Titans could really use a receiver, especially a deep threat. So back-to-back first-round receivers for Tennessee. This could be a tackle as well, but I just really like the storyline of sneaking Jalen Hyatt into the first round here to keep him in Tennessee. I don't think anyone's going to complain about that. He is a very, very fun player to watch. And then, yes, we have the Lions sneaking back in here. First pick of the second round, but that's at the end. We'll start with 29. Minnesota Vikings going Devin Witherspoon, corner out of Illinois. Another guy that I'm not sure sneaks into the first round, but I wanted to show him some love. Has played really well for Illinois this year. He's been one of the better corners in the entire FBS this season. He's been spectacular, and for the Vikings that need help at corner, I think he makes a lot of sense. You know, I thought about a bunch of different options for the Vikings. I really wanted to give them Brian Branch, but with taking Lewis Seen last year, still having Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum, I just couldn't really do that. Brian Branch is like a hybrid free safety star, which is like a nickel defender. So he has versatility and adds a bunch to a defense, but I just didn't know if the Vikings would prefer a boundary corner, so I've gone boundary. And then Buffalo, Bijan's going to go higher than 30. I know it's the whole thing of like, oh, running backs just don't go high in the draft. It'll be a miracle to see one sneak into the first round. We've seen worse running back prospects get drafted higher, and he's just going to go higher than this. It's just so tough for me to go through and see a team that needs help on defense like the Lions and give them a running back at 14, or the Falcons that need a lot of help all over the place and give them a running back at 19. But Bijan is just a special running back prospect. He's probably a top 5 or 10 prospect in the entire draft, and he's a running back. And it's just weird in today's NFL, we just don't see running backs go very high, but Bijan is different. And catch out of the backfield, is one of the better runners we've seen in college football over the past decade. He is an awesome prospect. And for Buffalo, we know they're okay with taking a running back fairly high. Second round pick on James Cook last year to be a receiving back. They just traded for Nyheim Hines. They're okay with investing to make what is already an unbelievable offense even more amazing. And Bijan Robinson leaves it to, you don't need Nyheim Hines and James Cook. You have a bell cow running back that can catch. He doesn't have to come off the field. Incredible running back prospect. And I think Jahmyr Gibbs ends up getting into the first round as well. He's such a fun player. I really like this draft class at the running back position, which I really didn't love it last year, even though I liked Breece Hall and I liked Kenneth Walker. I think these two at the top are definitely better. And then Brian Branch, the Eagles, talked about him a little bit a second ago. But the Eagles are just really good, but could maybe use another safety / nickel corner. And I think Brian Branch gives you flexibility and a really, really talented player. I think he's one of the probable top 20 players in the draft, and he slides down here to 31. And then Michael Mayer, same thing with Bijan Robinson in terms of positional value. I think he goes higher than this. I just couldn't find a fit that I liked. Like, am I really going to give the Bengals a tight end over an offensive tackle? Wasn't today, I'll tell you that. But Michael Mayer is awesome. He's like 6'4", 6'5", 260 with exceptional receiving ability. He is a great receiving tight end. You lose TJ Hawkinson, tight end becomes a much bigger need, and Michael Mayer, who falls in this one to the second round, pick number 32, which sounds so weird to say, is my guy here at 32. So that is the mock draft. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I know you'll disagree, per usual. Let me know down in the comment section below what I said that was stupid this week, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.